And welcome, Hoosier fans, to a disappointed episode of the Assembly Call today as your Indiana Hoosiers fall to the Texas Longhorns by the score of 66 to 44. Boy, this game got out of hand early and quick with a total lack of any semblance of offense by the Indiana Hoosiers. It was a combination of bad shooting, bad decision-making, bad play from veterans, and typical, as expected at sometimes, real shaky performances from the depth that comes from our freshmen. But Texas came out and really showed their athleticism and their pressure defense in taking some of the initial actions for Indiana away, and the Hoosiers never responded. They never responded on the court, and they never responded from the bench either in getting some sets or some offense in order to compete in the game. If there is a small victory, the defensive effort probably was good enough to win a game and win a game against Texas, although at some point in the second half, I thought even that effort on the defensive end kind of faltered. So I'm your host, the coach, Brian Tonsoni. I'm here with ChatMob, Chad Schwarzkopf, and a real quick rant as needed by Ryan Phillips. We'll break it down for you on this edition of the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. And let's start the show the way we start every show, and that is with our banner moment. And I guess I'm at a loss for a banner moment in a performance like this, to be honest with you. But I'm going to make this a stretch and say that I thought Christian Lander's defensive effort was better, and I think it's obvious that he's got to get better defensively in order to have more minutes. And I think maybe a game like this in the second half of the season, a more downhill athletic guard, as Jared mentioned last night, not just a prober, might be some of the response that IU could have for a defensive attack like the Texas Longhorns. So I was really impressed when I saw him in his stance, his closeouts, his fight. Still a lot to happen on the positive side defensively for Christian Lander in order to be a major contributor. But in a night where there were not a whole lot of positives, I'm going to focus on some developmental things as a coach that I think you can build on for going forward. Our banner moment today, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel, now in their fourth season sponsoring the Assembly Call. With Christmas right around the corner, you need to make your way over to their website, homefieldapparel.com. They have something unique for everyone on your shopping list, especially IU fans, and all of their apparel is printed on the softest, most comfortable materials you'll find anywhere. Want a few suggestions? Here are the items I personally purchased and wear regularly. The Assembly Call sweatshirt. I wear a couple T-shirts. The old logo, State of Indiana with the block eye, is pretty good. And, of course, the Bison hoodie. You could always save on your home field order by using the promo code Assembly20 at checkout. It'll give you 20% off your entire order throughout the year. Just don't hesitate. Get your orders in soon to ensure you receive them by Christmas. Go to homefieldapparel.com, load up your shopping cart, and enter Assembly20 at checkout to get 20% off. That's homefieldapparel.com. Okay, now it's time to move the ball, find the open man, and get some opening thoughts from the rest of our team. And we got a quick visit here from Ryan. Ryan, your rant on today's disappointing loss.
Let's put it this way. I wasn't supposed to be on the show today, but I am because of this. We'll just put this out there, get right down to it real quick. You're in your fourth year as the coach of a program. You cannot go on national television against an okay opponent and lose by 22 the way Indiana. It's not just losing the game. It's the way Indiana lost. They shot 23.9% from the field. They were out-rebounded 48-29, turned the ball over 14 times. And here's a fun stat for you. Texas had 22 fast break points today. The second highest total in 2+ years for Shaka Smart's team. 22. That's not getting back on defense. That's not hustling. That's not paying attention. And, you lost the game by 22 points, and you gave up 22 fast break points. Trace Jackson Davis did not show up in the first half. He got smacked around by players who are inferior to his talent level. I'm sorry, but the Trace Jackson Davis we've seen the last two games is not an NBA draft pick. He can he can jump, but he's not getting picked if he plays like that. Soft around the rim, 5 of 12 from the field, and a couple of those were late when it was when Texas had taken its best players off the court. To finish only a 40-minute game only making 11 field goals is just utterly insane. The shooting still isn't there. We were told we're better at shooting. 2 of 10 from 3. They weren't great yesterday. This is the same problems Indiana has had for years, showed up again today, and are consistent systemic problems. I know we've joked about Shot Doctor and all that stuff about on this show, and it's been fun and funny, and we've had a good time with it. But the base point is that Archie Miller, for years, we have been begging him to hire some kind of shooting dedicated coach, whether it's a down the bench assistant or what, somebody who knows how to teach guys how to shoot, who can develop shooters. They still have not developed any shooters. And Al Durham has looked a little bit better. But other than that, who on this team do you have confidence in stepping into a three-pointer? You have to make three-pointers in modern basketball, especially if you get down. And today they only shot 10 despite being down 20 for what felt like most of the second half. It's a disaster. There's no positive silver lining. I know you tried, Coach. I appreciate your effort on the banner moment. But there is no silver lining to this. This was an abject disaster in a big opportunity for Indiana to pick up a non-conference win against a top 25 team. They did not show up. There's no excuse for that, and there's no sugarcoating that. They may come out tomorrow, be completely different, and play better. But do you have any confidence moving forward, given what we've seen the last 3 years, that every game they're going to show up with intensity and effort? I don't. And I don't know why. I don't know what the disconnect is. I like Archie Miller. I've defended Archie Miller. I think Archie Miller has the ability to be a good coach. Whatever's going on at Indiana has not changed and has not gotten better. This is the year he's supposed to have all his guys. He's supposed to have the kind of roster he wants and the kind of players he wants. And they got blown off the floor by a decent team. Texas is like the 6th best team, maybe 7th best team Indiana's going to face this year. And they got absolutely annihilated by them. What's going to happen when you face Michigan State or Iowa or Wisconsin or any of those other top-rated Big Ten teams? There's again, no sugar. If I told you yesterday Texas would shoot 38% from the field, 28% from 3, and only take 19 free throws, you'd think Indiana would come out and win. I mean, you would. Not get blown out and not even be in the game in the second half. Something's got to change. It's on Archie Miller and his staff to change it. Because you know what? I'm done blaming players. You can't blame players when it's a systemic problem. Shooting the ball, when it's a systemic problem of a flat offense coming out often. I'm sorry. I just can't get into that. These guys played an athletic team with length and completely wilted and basically early on decided they weren't going to play. And they didn't have a chance. That's unacceptable at Indiana. It just is. You want that? You go to a MAC school or a CAA school. Go coach there. You cannot do that in the Big Ten. And go coach there, go play there, whatever. That's not acceptable in the Big Ten. It's not acceptable in Indiana. We have a standard that has fallen by the wayside over the years. We need, and the whole point has been to try and get back there. This is not the way to do that. So I'm done. I'm out. Good luck with the show, guys. I am not envious of you having to do it, but that was a disaster, and it's completely unacceptable, especially in the 4th year of a regime. And Archie Miller, he's a smart guy. I think he's a talented coach. He's got to get it figured out now.
Ryan, we thank you for taking time out of your work.
I'm out.
That's why we have it.
All right, I got to get out of here, folks. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Ryan's rant, much needed today. There's a lot that I agree with. There's also some points that I'll make afterwards where there's a little bit of disagreement from my vantage point, but there really isn't much to sugarcoat tonight. Chad, your initial thoughts here as we start the show.
Like a fart in the wind, there goes Ryan, but the smell lingers on. It's just it's aggravating. It's aggravating because I thought at halftime, I was hopeful at halftime. I was thinking despite was the word in my head at halftime. Despite IU missing all these bunnies, all these easy layups, and over dribbling on offense and not being aggressive, I felt like we were still in it because our defense was there. I was like, surely we can come around. Surely we can start making some of these shots at halftime. Trace Jackson Davis is going to get fired up. Maybe Trey Galloway is going to go around and aggressively bump chests with all the players at halftime. And we're going to come with fire. We're going to come with some of that aggression that we saw and we loved yesterday. And it started to for a little bit. I mean, if you look at what the score was, matching wise, at least on the half, we were hanging there for a little bit. But then they just took off again. We fell flat again. I kept looking in the notes that I kept taking. And eventually, sadly, in games like these, I just stopped taking notes. At 9 minutes, at 9 minutes, I said,
"There's no reason to keep going."
No. But at 9 minutes, I at least have a note that says, "Is Al taking over?" He drives to the basket, and IU was down. It's just there's lots of little moments like that in my notes where I just, is this the moment? Is this the turning point? And then we fall flat. Trace Jackson Davis finally takes a hard drive to the basketball and finishes through contact, something he didn't do all night, and draws the foul, makes the basket, and makes it. And then I think we turn around, and the next possession after that, Armand Franklin makes a three-pointer. So I have big caps letters in my notes, turning point from there. And then my next and final note of the game was at the 11:30 mark, a block shot by Race on a three, and then a run out by Trace to dunk it on the other end. And then I had question mark there, turning point. It was 46-31 at that point, still relatively within hands. Plenty of time on the clock, plenty of time to surge from there, and they didn't. Fell flat after that. It's frustrating. I think a lot of it maybe has game plan. A lot of it too, to me, was missed bunnies, easy shots that right there at the rim that just rolled off. Some of the shot selection I think was questionable, but again, just missed shots. And I don't want to rant too long and take all the talking points because we at least want to have some decent stuff to talk about around it. But
All right, so you bring up some good points and a lot of stuff that we need to talk about. And so I'm going to be here today to not sugarcoat this. This was bad. This was ugly. Everyone's responsible for this. This brings up a lot of fears that we thought last night might have changed. But I'm also, as a coach and as an educator, here to try to make sure we keep some semblance of calm, and the ship hasn't sunk. These tournaments are somebody wins them and somebody loses them, and some teams play well and some teams don't. From a bracketology standpoint, I losses in games 2 and 3 we kind of discount because you don't. Even in a tournament, you have a 1 day or a 48-hour turnaround to scout and practice and go through a walkthrough. A 24-hour turnaround sometimes can be a little different. But I'm going to try to share with our listeners a coaching view, and I'll let you be the fan of the day and a coaching view of what a coach does after this, because the coach is just absolutely ticked at the performance, probably absolutely ticked at some of the decisions that he made, substitution calls, all of that thing. When something goes bad like this, man, it hurts. And it hurts bad when you're inside the program. And the bottom line is the players don't quit and the coaching staff doesn't quit. You go back to work tonight and you get the film ready and you play North Carolina or you play Stanford tomorrow, and you've got to try to find a way to be better. And that's the job of a coach, and that's the job of the player. You got to understand what happened here. But my main point, and I'll throw this back to you, from a coaching standpoint, it's a real struggle when you design stuff for your All-American, supposedly player, your All-Big Ten, potential Big Ten player of the year. And at halftime, he's 2 of 7 and not really playing. And I am not an excuse maker, but it almost looked like he was not 100%. Or he was just that there was something about him that wasn't normal.
There's something that's been off with him this whole tournament. His emotion isn't there. I don't know if his energy level's not there. His face is showing how flat his body looks.
Yeah, and
it's very telling.
We've just seen a TJD that's a whole lot different. And so one, when your best player has an off night, and I'm sorry, I know he had 17 points, but he got about 6 of those late. He was not dominant when Indiana needed Trace Jackson Davis to be dominant. And that's when the other players, your best players got to play well. I mean, if Luka Garza does not score for Iowa, they're going to be in trouble. If Ayu Dosunmu doesn't have a good game, Illinois is going to be in trouble. So while I agree with Ryan that this has been 4 years of this and Archie needs to win and get it fixed now, your best player who's demonstrated that he can play better did not play well at all. Not securing rebounds, getting balls tapped out from him that led to threes. There were 11 points on non-secured rebounds, and some of those were his. And then just avoiding contact. If you're that good a player, you go through people and get fouled and go to the foul line 20 times. Now a positive of his play, he was 7 of 9 from the free throw line, and you got as mad as we all are, you got to find some positives, and he did hit 7 of 9, but he probably should have gone to the foul line 15 or 16 times tonight if he was going direction. You're that, and I thought Rob Finney had a bad game, and there's really, he didn't have a turnover, but he only had 1 assist and didn't take a 3. I thought the 2 best players that we have to rely on is our point guard to get us into offense and our post player to throw the ball into and score, and they had subpar games. And maybe that's on the coach for not calling the right plays or everything, but it looked like we ran the same plays that we did yesterday. Those guys just didn't have a good game, and I trust them to be back. And so those of you who want to be positive, I trust Finney and Trace Jackson-Davis to be back. So I don't think this is the type of game we're going to see the rest of the year, as disappointing as it was. But there's not a program alive. If you take your number 1 and number 2, if you count Finney as 2, maybe you count Al Durham as a number 2 person there. But your number 1 and 2 players have subpar performances, or at least just meh performances, you're not going to play well. Now, we didn't just not play well. This offense was horrible. So your thoughts on those 2 guys' performance today?
Well, you pointed out something there, nailed it. I mean, it was something that we complained about yesterday on the post-game show about Rob Finney, is that he is possibly our second, well, not possibly, he is our second best 3-point shooter. And the past 2 games, he did not take a single 3-point shot. What's going on with that? That doesn't make any sense. He needs to at least have 3 or 4 every game. He's looking to give it up too often, and especially in a game like this where the offense can't get going at all, you need your lead point guard to say, I'm going to get some points then myself. I'm going to take it upon myself to get some points and take those threes. I don't know if maybe if you read into it, that's you're talking there about someone that maybe isn't fully confident about his 3-point shooting to not want to take it, or the coach is not telling him not to take it. I don't know. I mean, that'd be a question to you, Coach, to think. I mean, do you think he has lost confidence in his shot? Do you think the game plan is not to allow him to have those shots? Or do you think it's just a substance of the game didn't allow him? I don't know. What Well,
and Al Durham didn't get to take a 3 either. You got to give some credit to Texas, the way they came out, and they were up in our space and didn't allow us to get some free looks. And they basically said – they were going to go, I don't know if I saw a huge amounts of double teams. I thought they dug in a little bit from the top, and at times, maybe when he put it on the ground, maybe they sent someone in. But they basically said, go ahead, TJD and Race Thompson, go one-on-one against our bigs, which they do have length, and we'll lock up on some of the perimeter guys. And I don't know, of the 10 3-pointers, I don't know how many of them were wide open. The wide open misses really bother me. The contested misses or the bad shots, then we can fix that by trying to get them to take better shots. But, I think there were 4 or 5 wide open shots on plays.
At least half of them. I mean, in my mind,
that's the last storyline here of this first segment. Here is just, it is befuddling to me as a fan and as a coach why college players shoot that poorly. And where I do agree with Ryan, and I've been pro Archie for a long time, is you've had 4 years and shooting's been a problem. If these guys are, if you've recruited for defense and athleticism, that's fine. But the name of the game in college basketball is put the ball in the basket, and the 3-point shot is, Texas didn't shoot that great, I don't think, from 3. They hit some very timely ones, especially after they shot 28% from 3. So they're not but they hit 7. And they hit 7 that were daggers too, like the Geronimo back tap at the one point when he got back tapped and they threw it ahead. But that's a wide open 3. We've got to find a way, whether it's scheme or more repetition. You know,
equally so. Anthony Leal finally gets in there at the end of the game. He's supposed to be this phenomenal 3-point shooter. I wanted to see a play drawn up to him right off the bat when he got in there. At least, again, try something. That is where I blame the coaching staff in a game like this.
I would agree with you on scheme. Where I disagree with Ryan is I haven't yet to find a college coach that hasn't put their guys through thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of shots. Now, maybe how you're putting them through shots, the development plan is not up to par. I will agree with that. But Archie has not said, hey, I'm not going to shoot during practice, or I'm not going to have shooting drills, or I'm not going to have individual development. You might say that what he's doing isn't working, and that would be okay. But to say that they haven't, and these guys have shown that they have good form. So the question then becomes, you got to step up and knock it down. But the continued shooting, but we didn't shoot well from two. I mean, I don't play for the Hoosiers. I'm a fan, but they didn't shoot well. And today I'm not going to say 24% is not going to win you games. So the thing that you do as a coaching staff is you go back and you say, did we get good shots? Did we take bad shots? If we're taking bad shots, then maybe I need to call a better game, or maybe the players need to have better understanding of what we want in shot selection. If they're missing shots that are good shots, like that missed layup at the end by Armand. And I thought Armand was one of the few guys who was all right tonight. But he drives in, has a clean layup, old-fashioned off one leg layup, and misses it. That's just a bad day, when that goes. But shooting's got to be better. So that'll do it for our first segment. Coming up here on our second segment, our breakdown of Indiana's loss to Texas, 66-44. We'll point out some meaningful moments you might have missed, if there were any meaningful moments, and then we'll go inside the numbers to highlight the most important statistical notes from the game. You're listening to the Assembly Call. Stick with us.
Hi, this is A.J. Moye. What's the only thing better than upsetting Duke in the Sweet 16? Celebrating it with friends afterwards. Join Jared, Andy, Ryan, and Coach for the Assembly Call after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers!
You're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. I'm the coach, Brian Tonsoni, here with ChatMob Chad, and we are breaking down today's loss, Indiana's loss to Texas, 66-44, and it's time now for the meaningful moment that you might have missed, and we're going to get back to some of the struggles for Indiana, but one of the things that, again, as a coach, I'll try to point out, you got to dig down deep and real deep in this game to find some positives. But Indiana was down significant at about the 10-minute mark in the second half, and Race Thompson takes a charge. And Race had his career game last night and come out and had some struggles, and Texas was really gearing up to stop him and struggled rebounding the ball, struggled shooting. But there in a loss, he's willing to take a charge. I appreciated that. Then immediately, that was at 9:53, and at 9:34, he hustled down and got an offensive rebound. I think got fouled and went to the foul line. So, I was watching in the second half more effort to see if I thought the effort was there. Was it effort or technique? And for the most part, for the first half, maybe first three quarters of the game, I thought it was just execution and technique and effort. A little bit of the effort kind of waned there at the very end, but that's something that maybe somebody missed that was a positive. Chad, do you have anything that stood out to you, either positive or negative, that someone might have missed?
I think early on at the beginning of the game, I think that Texas got about 3 or 4 traveling calls, and that had to do with a lot of the pressure that Indiana was giving them and staying right up in their grill. And when they had to take that extra little step before they started dribbling the ball, or when they were driving and coming in, they ran into Indiana players and had to pick it up and take a couple steps. So I enjoyed to see that aggressiveness show out as calls of travel. It's kind of a way you can see the defense working in that sense. But as far as other plays, I mean, I kind of talked about a few of the plays that kind of stood out where I thought IU was going to take over. But Trey Galloway, I think, had some good hustle plays overall. He was kind of the one that I think felt the most aggressive on the glass, or just moving the most. Probably if you could track the distance traveled, I think he definitely ran the most on this team today. But there was one play where he had a great hustle play to get an air ball. The one shot by actually Rob Fennessy did shoot a three. They missed that in the stats because I had that actually in my notes. It was an air ball by him. Maybe they thought it was a pass. Why no one didn't call, but Trey Galloway saved that out of bounds and knocked it off the Texas player. So that was good to see overall. Shifting from these though, Coach, I have one thing you kind of brushed over earlier that I wanted to get your thoughts on. You mentioned this is just kind of the second, third game of the season for this team. And you can put too much weight on performances in these early goings and how they are. And it's kind of a battle in my head right now, both kind of wanting to dismiss a bad performance like this as it's the early season. It's been a crazy off season. We haven't had those cupcake games to kind of figure out lineups and figure each other out and everything. But yet the other side battling, as you're seeing a lot, is saying this is a repeat. This is Groundhog's Day. This is stuff we've seen before. Where do you balance those two different kind of feelings on a game like this early in the season?
As a fan, I'm worried because it is some of the similar things. As a coach, you know that you just threw out a horrible effort that you couldn't even probably draw this up again offensively. If you do, there's really a lot. It's just quick. As a fan, we were in love with everything last night, and you beat a Providence team, and Ed Cooley was embarrassed, and Ed Cooley's an outstanding coach, and no one on the show is asking for Ed Cooley to be fired because Indiana beat them by 21. But Ed Cooley's team didn't play as well, and Indiana played well, and you had that. You're going to see that in some of these early games. You see some upsets happening. San Francisco beating Virginia. You see some play that you might not have had. And again, I'm not making excuses. You, as a coach, you hold this team accountable tonight. You hold a film session. You're having that team dinner, and you're letting them have it because it's not acceptable to only score 44 points, and it's not acceptable to play the way they did. And they have to be better technique, and they have to be better execution-wise. And then you get into teaching, and that's what coaches do. And whether you like a coach or dislike a coach, they're going to be teaching tonight, and you use all the stuff that we're kind of pointing out, and they'll do a much better job of finding all the particulars than we will, especially right after the game when we're kind of heated as fans. But then you go to work, and hopefully we have a much better result yesterday. And I think your point about defense was this defensive effort was good enough to win a game against a talented Texas team. Texas has been as high as number 3 in Ken Pom, and some preseason rankings had them in the top 10. They have 5 returning starters and a 5-star forward in the Brown guy, and a lot of experience. And you have to play well. And if you don't play well, you're going to get smoked by 20. And Indiana did not play well, but this is a good Texas team, and I would say it's probably the best team in the field. Better than North Carolina right now because of their experience. I saw Texas beat Purdue at Purdue last year, and this is a good team. But it's not a great team, but it's a good team. Their athleticism and length gave us a lot of trouble. But something else I'll share with our listeners from a coaching standpoint, I thought your point about defense was really good, forcing travels, forcing some loose balls early in the game while we're all struggling about the 19 points or whatever we scored at halftime. The defense was pretty solid, and the tags when someone dribbles at let's say the right elbow of a lane, and the guy guarding the wing slides over and kind of shows their hand and tries to get the dribbler to stop. We call that a tag, and I thought that our tags were really good, and we really stopped penetration early on, and they struggled to score. Not as much as we did, but they struggled to score in that first half. But they hit a few threes again after rebounding. That's important. And then you saw, if you heard Archie afterwards, there's something in the game of basketball called a kill, and that's if you get 3 straight stops. And after the first possession, the second half, he said that's 1, get 2 more. And obviously then Trace Jackson Davis gets shot faked at the 3-point line, then gets shot faked again at the basket, and the guy gets a dunk, and there goes the 3 stops in a row. It didn't get started off at the right note there in the second half. But those are some things that coaches try to do to get back in a game. When you're struggling, is just focus on 3 possessions. Can you get 3 stops, and can you get a couple of scores and get that ball under 9 or 10? That's what coaches do. Obviously, it didn't work out. He might need to do something different. But those are some things I thought you might have missed on the game, or that I can give to you as a side note in this sad day. Chad, let's go into numbers. Numbers that stood out to you today in this ball game.
Well, obviously, it's the shooting is the biggest atrocious numbers that we look at and everything in there. I mean, we did at least get to the free throw line a good amount. I mean, at one point, I even too thought and said in my notes that I thought Texas may run out of players. They were fouling so much, and that's product of their aggressiveness, and what caused Indiana to be so horrible on offense was just that constant pressure and everything from it. But obviously, they had 28 fouls throughout it, and then IU getting 29 chances from the line, converting 20. Again, decent makes there.
But not the Chad grading scale that we found out yesterday.
Hey, I was running a little on the highs there yesterday. But rebounds, I mean, we got nailed on the rebounds, 45 to 29. I mean, that's another product that can help you if your offense is not firing, if you're not making those shots. At least clean up those boards. At least get your second chance points. And we only got 3 points, second chance points. Yesterday, I believe we had 17. So right there kind of shows you if you're going to shoot it horribly, at least go up there and get it and have a chance to make another basket. But
the shooting stuff still just amazes me for college players. I mean, this looks like a high school program or something, where you just got guys in. You got to pick 12 guys to make your squad. Whether you recruited these guys, got to knock down shots, and it's just becoming a.
You look at it and you think it's those games where is the basket hexed? What did someone do? It had to be one of the hysterics. What did one of the hysterics do that put the bad mojo on the rim? But here's where things just aren't going in.
Here's some numbers that I just found that are really kind of shocking. And when I go back and read the ChatMob, I'll be interested to see what you guys say in that too. And I'm sorry I don't pay a whole lot of attention with directing the show to the ChatMob because I got a lot of things I got to push in that. But I really enjoy going back and reading the comments and the thoughts afterwards. I save the chat. Our starting 3 guards had no turnovers. Starting 3 guards had 4 assists and no turnovers, and we had 6 assists total. Now, here's something where you would say, wow, that's pretty good. And I'm going to say, no, that's not. Because they weren't aggressive enough against the pressure and forcing the action. They got pushed back by the athleticism and length of the Texas Longhorns, and they settled on safety. Especially, we talked about Rob a little bit. But to have no turnovers from your starting guards and only score 44 points, this might just be one of those statistical crazy nights where, man, it just doesn't make sense that this game occurred the way it did. But on the other hand, when you look at the turnovers, the numbers, 5 turnovers from your post player and another 3 from your 4-man. 8 of the 14 turnovers came from the post play. And so, I'll tell you this, no matter how many games are left, if Indiana shoots 6 of 17 from the post and has 8 turnovers from the post, we're not going to win. Because our guards are good, but they're not super great guards. But with our post play, as Race Thompson has dominated yesterday, Trace Jackson Davis is an All Big Ten player. To have that kind of performance from the post is just not good. And then so what's the answer? You got to look at a coach. Do you need to call different plays? Those types of things. But that statistical thing right there. When I saw 6 assists to 14 turnovers, I was like, that's a horrible, horrible stat line. And then when I looked, Lander had 1 turnover. So, I mean, if you count Galloway as a guard, but you have 3 turnovers from your 5 guards against a team that's athletic and plays pretty good defense. that's not bad. But it just goes to show you that the inside play and Trace Jackson, this team's going to play as Trace Jackson Davis goes. Now, he may have some low numbers because of double teams or whatever, and the other players will step up like yesterday, but he's got to play better.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with those turnovers, like you said, but that doesn't fully pass my eye test because, again, I just feel like that's a product of them not being aggressive.
Right,
enough.
exactly.
That's not them trying to get in there, and it's weird to say. I almost want each of them to at least have one turnover. That means they were aggressive and trying to get to the basket all game. But it was my one beef with the game yesterday too. When I was searching for some negatives to say, was that when the offense looked the most stagnant yesterday, it's when we dribbled way too much, and that's what you saw in today's game. So much dribbling on the top of the key. Just doing little circles, little weaves on the outside, and not trying to probe in, not trying to kick it out, just getting lost in this game of dribbling and passing it around amongst each other, and maybe not taking enough risks on offense in that regard for our guard. Play.
That's well said, because the word probe, and I'm going to add the word downhill, are going to be keys to this Indiana team going forward. One of the concerns I had for this team, it actually wasn't shooting, but we'll add that back in, was who is our downhill guy? We have post play. Now we've recruited guards. Who is our downhill guy? And the most likely for it right now is Galloway, but you can't rely on him as a freshman to be that downhill guy, that guy to make things happen when people are up in your face. That's how you beat pressure defenses. You go backdoor, you have backdoor passes, you have post play, and you have drives for two or drives for kicks and threes. And we really didn't attack vertically that defense today. And it shows, again, Magic Johnson turned the ball over a lot in the NBA, but he also held the record for most assists for a while because he was aggressive. And that's where stats are funny sometimes, because you want lower turnovers, but you also want aggressive play, especially when you're getting smacked in the mouth. And our guards have to be selectively aggressive, because I thought at times they went in off balance at the rim, and maybe that's why they missed some shots. But that's a stat there. I'll point out a positive stat, again, trying to be help some of you who want some positive spin there. Armand Franklin continues to do Armand Franklin things. I don't know if he's going to ever be a guy to get 20 on a regular basis or be the sole reason why Indiana wins, but he got 7 rebounds. Again, 6 defensive rebounds, scored 6 points, missed some shots that I think he will be okay making. He didn't shoot the ball well, but played 31 minutes, and I think you see why Archie trusts him. But the guard rebounding, Galloway also had 5. So I guess those were some stats. Are there any stats that we can that I missed that might be helpful to our chat mob who's early day drinking?
I don't know. I mean, it's maybe a depressing stat, but Max Bielfeld tweeted, remember when IU could shoot, and listed Yogi Ferrell, Blackman, Troy, Thomas, Mac himself, Robert Johnson, Nick, and all those guys all up in the 40s in their old stat line averages and everything. So a little depressing to look back when IU could shoot. But again, it's tough to say, because I don't think there were a lot of bad shots that were taken. It just felt like they rolled weird off the rim. They just missed barely. None of the misses were really horrible misses, clanking off or anything like that. They just felt like they rolled weird. Just the bunnies. It's the bunnies that get me. It's those layups, missing those. And you know that part is not a coaching thing. Coach is not denying them doing layup lines or anything like that. So that just comes with the aggressive-ness, I guess. That's where you fall that.
The stats have nowhere to go but up after this performance, everyone. So tomorrow's stat segment might be a little bit better. But coming up on the assembly call, we'll hand out our game balls, and hit any other lingering storylines. We'll look ahead to tomorrow's opponent, and then it'll be time for last call. That's all next here on the assembly call. Stick with us.
This is Tim Priller, and I never miss an episode of the Assembly Call.
Thanks, Tim. We could have used you today in your shooting prowess. But you're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. Catch us live immediately following every IU basketball game, plus every Thursday night at our website, assemblycall.com. And while you're there, make sure to sign up for the free IU Hoops email newsletter, where over 1,000 of your fellow IU fans have already subscribed. You can also text IU to 66866 to subscribe to that newsletter. That's IU to 66866. I'm the coach, Brian Tonsoni, and I'm with ChatMob Chab, and we're trying to break down Indiana's real disappointing loss to the Texas Longhorns, and now it's time for the game balls, and I'm not sure, Chad, where we go with this one today. So I kind of have an idea for me, but I'm going to let you go first, and this one probably going to come down to the ChatMob if we even give one out.
I mean, it's so tough to always have to give one out during this. I'm going to give one out in this way just because it's something we haven't approached yet or talked about, and hopefully it gives good feelings, good emotion, good karma towards him, and maybe he gets better. But I'm going to give it to our senior, Al Durham. That ankle roll did not look good. He was planning and trying to launch off a rolled left ankle, left or right. Can't remember which leg, but it did not look good, and I'm hoping he's okay. We'll see. Hopefully it's just a little strain. Nothing got majorly pulled or torn or anything like that, but he had his moments again during this game where he tried to fight back. He had moments where he tried to get it in there for IU and do some good things for us. It just didn't happen. But I'm going to give it to him.
Well, I'm also going to give it to Al Durham. That was who I was thinking about probably with 10 minutes to go in the second half before he rolled his ankle, and probably will be doubtful tomorrow, even on the safe side. We want him for the remainder of the year. But from a coaching standpoint, what you want in your senior leadership is attitude and effort, and I think that never wavered from him. And he had 8 points, 4 of 5 from the free throw line, a couple of rebounds. He didn't have a great stat line, but it sure looked like he was trying to make things happen. And at some point, maybe trying a little too hard to make things happen. And you know, when things get rough, you look to your senior leadership. And I don't think that he failed in his effort. And so, you know, in a game like this where it's really tough to even give one out, I'm going to give one to him for staying with it. And I'm also going to use that to encourage the Indiana fans that, you know, after the first couple of nights, we said this is a team that we can really enjoy. I really enjoy this team. I didn't enjoy this performance. This performance was bad. The shooting was bad. The coaching was bad. It's unexcusable to play like this if you really want to reach the goals of the Indiana basketball program, and I'm not going to get away from that. But there's not a player on this team that I don't want to play well. You know, I really appreciate Trace Jackson-Davis, had a bad game. I really like Rob Finney, and I enjoy watching him play, had a bad game. You know, Galloway, I love his energy and enthusiasm. He got driven quite a bit tonight on defense. So I'll point out when they play bad, and almost everyone on the roster played bad, but everyone on the roster has my respect, and when they wear Indiana, I'm going to cheer for them tomorrow and have the Indiana gear on. And I encourage you to do that. I think this is a team we can enjoy. Even, and I know it's a stretch, people, it's a stretch to enjoy them today when you only score 44 points. But again, I think some of the issues that we've had in the last probably long time, 2 decades, I think they're starting to get different types of players in here. We need different shooters. I'm sorry to try to sugarcoat it, and I'm not sorry because it's next man up. Right. And you want kids and you want a coaching staff to say, yeah, we got beat. It was embarrassing. It was bad. But now we're going to fix it and go forward. You don't want players and a coaching staff to quit because they had a really disappointing day. And I think Al Durham represents that. I like the way he handles himself in interviews. He's happy. He's enjoying his collegiate career. And tonight, in a really ugly game, I thought he was the lone bright star for your Indiana Hoosiers. So if you agree, let me know in the chat mob. If you think I'm full of crap, let me know in the chat mob. You won't hurt me. It's just like most of the fans that I've heard for my 25 years. That's a tie now. Trace has one, Race has one, and Al Durham has one in 3 games. So, Chad, how do we overcome this, in your opinion, as you're looking forward to tomorrow's game, and we don't know who that is, either Stanford or North Carolina? what kind of things are you looking for tomorrow that'll either ease your mind or make you feel a little bit better about your Indiana Hoosiers?
Yeah, well, it'll be Davidson or Providence on the 7:00 game. Is who we would possibly have tomorrow. But
no, we play it's Stanford or North Carolina. We've moved to the winners bracket. Once yesterday's games were. We moved to the
okay.
Yeah,
that's right. I forget the crazy lineup, the crazy way they do this one.
Yep.
But yeah, I think I choose to have long-term memory loss. That's what I do with this. I choose to focus on this season, on this team. This is a different team. While there is a lot of pieces that are the same from it, I just feel new energy out of this team. I feel a new culture out of this team. I feel more confident in this team to bounce back in the pieces that are there to help that happen. I'm not ready to dive too much in the depression deep end on one game in this season this early. It's something that I just choose to look past. Like you said, let's correct it. Let's learn. Let's see where we made mistakes, and let's move on. Let's not do that again. And see what we can do when we come out next game. So it's going to be a good team that we play again next too, North Carolina or Stanford. So it's not going to be an easy one. So we can't lay back and lick our wounds. We've got to throw some bandages on them and get back into the war. Because it doesn't get easier right now. And with the abbreviated season that we have, it's not going to be easy this year at all. There's no cupcake to this season. It's the cupcakes are done. We get into this, and then we get into a tough draw of a few non-conferences, and then a very tough draw of a Big Ten schedule that we have. So just buckle up, guys. Let's be supportive. Let's try to stay positive and push on as Hoosier Nation.
Yeah, I'm looking for better execution. I'm going to try to. I don't know if I'm going to go back and watch it, to be honest with you, but I'm trying to get in my mind if this team quit. And my first thought is I don't think it quit. I just think it was bad. And I thought, there have been teams in the last couple of years where I thought they quit or some people quit. And that's why I brought up the race, down 15 or 16, taking a charge at the 9:53 and some of those things. So that leads me to, again, believe that maybe we'll be quicker to overcome some of these bad performances. So, I really worry if the first two games were real close contests with a lot of issues and then we got blown out. But I thought we played relatively well in the first two. And that Providence team is the third, supposed to be the third best team in the Big East, which is a good conference and will get 5 or 6 teams into the tournament. And we executed at a high level. And the other thing that gives me some encouragement is that this defensive effort was good enough to win tonight. Now, it wasn't perfect, and there was some of the rebounding needs to be better, and the loose ball 50-50 Corral needs to be better. And as a coach, there's never a perfect game. So some people need to guard the ball better, those types of things. But, if you hold a team to under 1 point per possession, a team that's talented, you have an opportunity to win. And if you hold a team in the 60s, you should be on the winning side. I know other programs like to keep the score right around 60, but really with the talent in the college game this year, if you're holding teams in the 60s, you should win. So this is an offensive issue, and it's up to Coach Miller to figure it out. And he's got to punch the right buttons, whether it's substitution pattern lineups, whether it's shooting drills in practice, or whatever. But the lack of shooting is going to be an issue for all of us for a long, long time. But I don't know that we'll shoot better tomorrow, but I think we'll execute better offensively tomorrow, regardless of who we play. Some of that is third game in 3 days, and there's not a lot of scouting that goes on, so you're able to run your stuff a little bit better in game 3. Now, you have less legs, which is not good for shooting on a regular basis. Sometimes good shooting teams suffer in the third game in 3 days. I don't know that we can get any worse. Maybe we slow down and get our shot prep a little bit better and quit forcing stuff, and maybe that's the issue. But I'll leave that to Archie. Oh, one more thing I want to ask you, too, is I don't think it would have helped at all today, to be honest with you, but having the availability of Joey Brunk might have been able to pull TJD at some point and say, hey, here's what's going on, rest. We didn't have to roll with them. Sometimes you teach a lesson by bringing someone out, sitting them next to his assistant coach, getting his mind right, and getting him back in. And the other thought that I had about Joey Brunk is he's got those up and down, those moves that don't look smooth, but sometimes against your long athletic dudes, you get him hopping up in the air. He wouldn't try to go over people. He's going to try to go around and in, and maybe we could have found some inside offense, which would have maybe early in the first half or midway through the first half that could have opened up some things. So I thought this was a game where we missed Joey Brunk a little bit today.
Yeah, I think we could have used him, and I'm still holding out. Obviously, we haven't seen him yet this year. That he may have gained a little bit of speed and athleticism in the off season this year, but beyond what he could have contributed in that standpoint, I think I missed his fire. Because he's always been someone that's when he's out there, he's got that similar of what we like with Trey Galloway, where he's out there competing. He may not have the skill level, but he's going to fight. He's going to claw. And I want to go back again too, and maybe it's torture as well to watch this game again. But I wanted to see who was that player trying to fire up the guys, because I don't know if I really saw that guy that was like, come on guys, let's stay in this. Let's get going. We can do this. We got this. Our defense is strong. We just need to get the basket in, kind of thing like that. Someone even, I think I saw a Twitter comment that said, asked, is anyone else noticing that Trey Galloway is the one speaking in all the huddles?
I noticed that as well.
So yeah, it's interesting to see again, and that's been a beef of mine majorly with this team in the past couple of years, is there hasn't been that emotional guy that's gonna, like Whop Fillier. We see Whop on the football team. He's out there punching guys during the timeouts. He's out there getting guys going.
Sometimes as an athlete, you can be too nice. When you cross over that black line that's on the sideline, you need to be a little bit of a butthole.
So I'm waiting to see that guy, the Dane Fife, the guy that's going to piss you off because he's riding you. But and when the game is over, you're going, wow, thanks, man. You kept me locked in. I love you, kind of thing.
That's a great point about this team, is that when you have good buy-in, you have good team chemistry, that's fine. But the third mix is you need some butt kickers. You need some people to knock you down and stand over you and talk some trash a little bit. And I'm not a big pop the collar guy. Everyone knows that, but you do need some energy givers out there. And it's not like they were dogging it or not wanting to win or not caring in my perception of the team. It's just sometimes you just need that little extra explosiveness. And I do agree with you. That's Joey Brunk. Pete Carrillo, who used to coach at Princeton, and think of all the people who go to Princeton and play basketball at Princeton. He said, we suffer from sometimes not having someone south of the tracks. We have to overcome that, and that's a coachable thing. You got to coach that, and you got to demand that, and you got to bring that out a little bit, and then you got to make sure you just don't go too much and lose your focus trying to be too emotional. But I noticed the Trey Galloway talking when the players came out of a huddle. He gathered and put the arms around everyone. I think that speaks volumes for Trey Galloway. So tomorrow, what this means, this loss today, this means that Indiana will play the Stanford, North Carolina loser tomorrow at 1:30. I will be with you again tomorrow, as I am required to be at home for a few days. Right now, it is a tie ball game. North Carolina and Stanford are tied at 16 with 8 minutes to go in the first half as we are recording this, and we will see one of those programs again. And remember, too, that when you play these, you want to go 2-1. 1 and 2 is not the end. You got a lot of games. And Indiana's schedule is probably one of the toughest schedules in the entire country, with only 2 bye games in 27 games. And the schedule in the Big Ten is heavy loaded. So there are going to be some times when we don't play well, and there's going to be times when we get beat. But when it comes bracketology time, maybe that'll speak volumes for us. So you're listening to the Assembly Call postgame show. Remember, check out our friends at Home Field Apparel to get their perfect gift. To get the perfect gift for the college sports fan in your life, use the promo code Assembly20 at checkout to get 20% off your entire order. Okay, it's time for a last call. Chad, your last thoughts as we sum up again a 66-44 loss to the Texas Longhorns.
Again, I have faith in this team to turn it around. I have faith in this basketball team to do what they need to do. Let's get it out right now, Hoosier Nation. Let's get it out of our system. Let's gripe about it. Let's complain about it. Let Twitter go ablaze tonight, but then let's put it aside and put our cream and crimson back on tomorrow. Don't burn it yet. Let's be there. Let's support them tomorrow. Let's be ready for a good game, and let's cheer that we see the better side. And we should be able to see at least some sort of better play, whether who that comes from, who wants to step up. That's what we are going to be able to see after a bad performance. You learn a lot about your team, and you can learn a lot about a few individuals of who wants to be ready. That next man up that coach likes to say, who's ready to accept that responsibility, shoulder that, and make some shots and carry this offense. So we'll see. Hopefully the coaching staff as well does some learning from this, because I put it both heavily on the players and on the coaching staff. Players for missing easy shots, and the coaching staff for not mixing things up and trying some stuff, not getting creative with things. So again, move on. Let's get it out. Yell, scream, do what you need to. Go outside, punch a pillow, whatever you need to do. Get it out tonight, and be ready to be positive and cheer on your Hoosiers tomorrow.
Well said. A performance like this is disappointing. It's unacceptable. The execution was just poor. To be nice about it, it was just poor all the way on the offensive end. I will again say, let's get that out just like you did. But we do have defense. And from a coaching standpoint, if your defense is always there, you have a chance to win. And today we really didn't have a chance to win because our offense was so bad. But if you just had a below average offensive day, you might have been able to sneak one out late because your defense is solid. So at least we're not a bad defensive team and getting beat 120 to something. That's the positive that I'm trying to find. And the good thing about having a game tomorrow is we have a game tomorrow, and we'll have something to talk about, and hopefully it's a victorious Assembly Call post-game show. But I will also encourage everyone to remember that the times that we're in, they're tough for everyone. Our good friend Bill Murphy lost his wife to COVID, and we dedicated the show last night. There's a lot of things that are going on, a lot of people who need work and have lost work. Those are the things that to really matter. And while we will always hold the Indiana Hoosiers accountable, keep that in mind, and the fact that it's much better to wear the candy stripes than to wear anything else, even on a day as disappointing as this. So that'll do it for this edition of the Assembly Call post-game show. If you want to see us do the show live and be part of the live chat, make sure that you subscribe to your YouTube channel, to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/assemblycall.com. And don't forget to go to assemblycall.com or text IU to 66866 to join our free email newsletter. Special thanks to longtime listener Bob Thompson, who produced much of the music you hear on the show, and thank you for listening. We'll be back to talk IU hoops again with you tomorrow after a win. Not going to guarantee it, though. Until then, keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
Take it from me, Yogi Ferrell. Keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
Thank everybody for coming out.
All right, I got to get out of here, folks. Thank you. For the most part, I'm going to go to bed tonight just pissed.
That might be the drop of the day. Wow, that was bad. That was a tough show. It's a tough show, Chad. It's a tough show, but I'm also going to say this. Like Michael Penix tears his ACL. I feel horrible for that kid. I'm just a fat coach sitting in the basement, drinking some Diet Coke, watching IU, being pissed that IU lost, right? The sun will come up tomorrow, or the snow will come out, whatever. And I get mad. I was yelling at the TV down here, and it's right to be mad. But Indiana's on tomorrow. I'll be in my Indiana gear rooting like heck, and I think this team will be okay. I don't think this team was ever destined to be a top 1 or 2 seed, but I still think the 5 through 6, 7 seed is still a possibility, and I don't think today's effort. If we're gonna overreact to this, we could also overreact to the Providence game. I think probably the performance is somewhere maybe averaged out in the middle. So appreciate everyone in the chat mob for joining in on this. I'd have tuned this thing off and not wanting to relive any of it. So we appreciate all you guys that show up. It means a lot to us. I mean that all of you in there, because this show was tough. This game was tough.
Well, hey, Texas is going to stay ranked this year, so yeah, they're a good team. We can't discount that factor. So,
hey, Tyler, you're all right whining, man. This was a wineable game. You don't have to apologize about whining. This was ugly. Tyler, I like Tyler Asher. He's a good dude.
mm-hmm.
To tailgate with him sometime.
I am cranky.
Are you going to be able to join me tomorrow?
Probably. If it lines up the same like it did today, my 3-year-old is asleep in the room right there, and she luckily sleeps heavy during her naps. So I just got to time those naps the right way, and then it's just as long as my wife can handle getting my other one to her dance practices and stuff. So,
all right,
caught me in a good window where I'm not working right now. So
I appreciate you joining on. It was a real stressor, and I mean, my practice got canceled Monday just because they were going to go early, and then we had all the other COVID stuff pop, and so I happened to, the 1 o'clock shows when everyone's working are kind of hard to, schedule. But I appreciate you being on. It's
no problem.
Good conversation.
Those that are still around too. Hey, I've kind of started. It's nothing I promote majorly, but I do a Hoosier Morning after show in the mornings after the games, where I kind of, especially games like this, allow you to kind of let the dust settle, let your initial emotions settle, and maybe focus a little bit better on what happens in the game. So I do that at 7:15 in the mornings. Grab your coffee, listen in. You can see it on YouTube. Find it on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter, and you'll see it and everything like that. Nothing I promote crazily because, again, I'm just a nut. I like to talk about IU athletics. So why not do it as much as I can?
So tune in tomorrow if you want to rehash even more of this incredible performance tonight. Huh?
A little tough to do 2 shows on tough games like this back to back to back. So hopefully it's a good sandwich where you just got the turd in the middle and the good bread on each side.
Well, I don't think we can play any worse execution-wise offensively. I mean, we missed a lot of shots at the rim. Obviously, I think we can continue to miss 3-pointers. Until that's proven to be more consistent. I'm not going to believe that till I see it, but the shots at the rim and again, you go back and teach guys when they're up in your face, you got to go by them. And when you go by them, you got to find the open man. And when you get inside against length, you got to go up and around and through and shot fake. And,
Well, and that's where their length came into play, and I think that's what led to the injury as well with Al, is that he was getting in there and discounted their length and their athleticism to recover back, and he found himself suddenly swarmed with guys.
And a plus, you never want to see someone hurt, but now maybe that forces a Lander and Galloway to get some more minutes tomorrow against a quality opponent and learn some lessons, because the real schedule starts when the Big Ten. The win against Providence is not going away from a bracketology standpoint. That's a Power 5 win. And so, Purdue's beaten Oakland and Purdue's beaten Liberty, although Liberty's a pretty good win, but it's not beating Providence. So when you get down to Selection Sunday, a win over Providence sticks, and a loss to a ranked Texas is not going to be that's not a negative. And there's not a really – maybe a Northwestern loss or a Nebraska loss that's really going to hurt the resume. So sometimes you learn from really crappy situations, and today was about the crappiest. But,
well, here's maybe something we should have brought up on the show, but with his injury, who do you think steps in? Who gets the nod?
Trey.
To start.
I think Trey Galloway. From the substitution patterns that come in, I think it depends too, like who you're playing. And I have scouted these two. The only worry there is guarding. Al is 6'4", 6'5", and can guard the 3. I think you're going to need a Galloway to play that.
I always forget about Al's size. He never seems as big as he is to me.
So I think the size of North Carolina and that might force a little bit bigger lineup. Tyler asked a question. Do you look at margin of victory much? Not really. You kind of do. And this year, Tyler's going to be interesting and with the bracketology, because normally that's the margin of victory, and those stats are figured in this net ranking, and then that's set out, and then you have the quads and all of that kind of thing. So that would show up in the net, which would lower IU's ranking. But this year they're talking about, with so many teams playing only conference and some teams playing 27 and some playing 20. They don't think the net's going to be as accurate as they have designed it to be. So there's a lot of talk in the bracketology world that it's going to be more of an eye test, more of a record, more of a standing, more of a who did you play, who did you beat, than any of that statistical analysis that they spent so much time on the net. I'm a big fan of the net. I think it's pretty good with some outliers. I think there's a couple outliers last year that weren't really good with the net ranking. I think the net's better than the RPI. But right now, and this is just a guess, you get wins. I think in the Big Ten being known as a big conference, they're going to get 8 at least, if not 9. And so if you get some wins, I don't think a 22-point loss to Texas. And I also think, Tyler, something that, again, I'm not on the NCAA committee, but a loss in the second and third game of one of these MTEs, I don't think is as devastating as if you lost by 22 after you had 4 or 5 days to prepare or were in the regular season, because, I think you see more wide margins sometimes in these games. You can. I know the North Carolina game is close, 25-25, but you can see someone get popped pretty easily in game 3 of the consolation bracket or whatever. And I look more at the wins of these MTEs. So if we beat Stanford or we beat North Carolina tomorrow, we have 2 solid wins coming out of this tourney for seeding purposes. I think that's not as good as having 3, but it'll be all right.
Well, and Ken Palm's been updated too. Indiana dropped to 26 from 14 to 26. Now, I don't know what Texas was before. I didn't look at it, but Texas is all the way up at 5.
And that's because their offensive efficiency. But and when you look at Ken Palm, if you're in the top 30, you're usually in the tournament, unless your record is really bad. If you're in the top 40, you're really under heavy consideration. So even after that horrible offensive performance, which dropped us from 14 to 26 overall, no, Tyler, that's great. And anyone in the chat, Mob, if you have any questions like that you want to answer, I got 5 or 10 minutes. Heck, I'm quarantined, so I don't have to go. But no, I think this loss is a lost opportunity to gain a good win, and I don't think I think it's a little negative because of the score and the perception that people have is like you can't stay within 22 of Texas. So the score doesn't help, but I don't know that it's going to be devastating once 27 games are decided.
Yeah, Stanford's 26 and North Carolina is 14. So just to put a framing of that.
So, all right. Appreciate everyone. Appreciate you, Chad. That'll do it.